Ayan, so isang napakagandang hapon sa inyong lahat. As of now, um, meron tayong 47 minus 1 since ako. So 46 participants for today's session. Welcome everyone to Get Started with GitHub Foundational Dev Workshop. So if you're excited na to learn katulad ko, let's see some reactions naman dyan, guys. Ayan. Ayan, wow! So dami naman ng mga reactions from our participants. Alam kong G na G na kayo guys, kaya naman just sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of this program. And to formally start, let me first introduce myself. So, hi, I am Lex Villaverde and I'll be your host for today's learning journey. And today we embark on an exciting exploration of version control, where collaboration meets efficiency and every commit tells a story. Whether you're just starting with Git or looking to refine your expertise, this session is designed to equip you with the skills and knowledge needed to navigate industry best practices. And before we dive in, please keep your microphones on mute. Drop your questions in the chat for the Q&A session later if you have any while our speaker is presenting. And most importantly, stay curious, engage, and of course, have fun. Now, it is with great honor that I introduce to you our speaker for today. He is one of the newest of the now 5 GitHub campus experts in the Philippines, an AI engineer intern at Generative Labs, and a third-year computer science scholar at FEU Institute of Technology. He is 5 times GitHub certified and has half a decade of experience in AI and software engineering. He was FEU Tech ACM's former webmaster, director for academics, and FEU Tech GDSC's former lead front-end developer. Today, we are incredibly fortunate to have him with us to share his expertise and help us navigate the ins and outs of Git and GitHub. Without further ado, let's all give a warm virtual welcome to Mr. Alpha Romer Coma.
So, wait. Can anyone hear me? No? Yes.
Yes po sir, audible po kayo.
Okay. Sorry for that. Hello and good everyone. Pleased to meet you. Firstly, thank you very much to PUP GDG on campus for having me. Now, throughout the next 2 hours, we'll tackle topics such as fundamentals of Git and GitHub, how to use GitHub in your organization/school projects, advanced use cases and industry practices, my personal recommendations and learning references, and lastly, some bonus content with certification vouchers. Moreover, being a workshop, there's hands-on activities we'll be doing later on. This talk is for PUP GDG on campus officers and members, CSIT and tech-savvy students, and those with or without prior experience. Do note that it will be relatively fast-paced, but there will be a recording, so do refer back if you get lost. Moreover, feel free to ask questions in the chat box during the session and I'll answer them near the end. Hi, I'm Alpha, one of the newest GitHub campus experts in the Philippines. I'm from FEU Tech, as you've heard, and shout out to all my fellow Tamaraos tuning into this workshop. My interests are in multimodal deep learning and professional development. And so let's connect with each other on the following links below. So the prerequisites of this workshop would be Visual Studio Code, Git, and GitHub Desktop. So I encourage you to please download or install these before we get into the workshop later. And today will be, for now, we'll be diving into the fundamentals first. And so you can access these slides here for your reading convenience. So let's begin. Who here has done something like this before? Imagine working on a project and you maintain many versions like these. You duplicate that project each time as you add in more functions and features to keep track of changes you've made, and have a fallback in case something breaks. However, if a single instance of that project is maybe a gigabyte big, then you might run into storage problems in the long run. How about here? Who here has experienced a disk corruption or blue screen of death that wiped out some, if not all, of your project files? Maybe you work on that project locally for months and you can just hope that it can be recovered. How about a permanent deletion of an important file? Do you have a backup in your Google Drive? These are major problems we hope to rarely encounter, but they do happen. Here's a timely example. Someone using an AI editor, the popular Cursor, for 4 months of work and now encountering a problem. Apparently, the AI had broken the project, and the developer is now desperately asking how they can reverse it. In the comments, you find a mention from the users a keyword version control and Git. Essentially, these are the problems that version control aims to solve. At its simplest, version control is the practice of tracking and managing changes to files and documents over time. It can help prevent code conflicts, can be used to roll back to earlier versions of a file in case something breaks, and allow software teams to collaborate more efficiently. There are two types of version control systems: centralized and distributed. In centralized, all users work with the same central repository, while in distributed, all copies are in a code base repository and changes are shared between peers. Being distributed essentially means you do not have one central location that keeps track of your data. No single face is more important than any other single face. The benefits of this being offline work capability, where you can look at logs, make commits without having access to a server, unlike centralized. It's especially important when you have hundreds and thousands of people working on the same project. Let's meet the man behind Git, Linus Torvalds, who is also the creator of the OS that runs the internet, Linux. One of the best features of GitHub is that it's reliable, meaning a cross transition of your project from CD to DVD to USB, you can be sure that it's still intact. Moreover, what you put in 5 years ago will be the exact same way you find it now. In performance, Git's operation, especially merging, are highly performant, enabling rapid development workflows. And Git's branching model, a lightweight way where every user can easily create and manage multiple branches, fostering parallel development and experimentation. We'll talk about this in depth later. The following are well-known technologies of centralized and distributed version control systems. Personally, I have never worked on anything aside from Git, but it's good to acknowledge that many big companies like Microsoft and Google were using these before Git took the ground in the software engineering landscape. According to Stack Overflow's 2022 survey, 93% of developers use Git, SVN coming in second and Mercurial in fourth. So no wonder Git is what we all know and use now instead of other version control technologies. GitHub is a company now owned by Microsoft. It's essentially a service that hosts projects and allows users to collaborate on code. If you think about it, Microsoft has an enormously massive reach in the tech community. We boot up our Windows OS. We develop software using Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code. We code in a very popular programming language called TypeScript. We get and publish to a service called NPM, also acquired by Microsoft. We deploy to a cloud provider called Microsoft Azure, and we host our code on GitHub, the world's largest source code hosting platform. So this is the difference between Git and GitHub. So Git is essentially the software driving the this is the driving force behind GitHub. Without Git, there's no GitHub, and as you can see, it's maintained by Linux, and as said earlier, GitHub is maintained by Microsoft, and open source versus free and paid, and much more. So if you haven't already set up or you haven't got a GitHub account yet, so I encourage you to set it up like I'm going to do now. Please use your school email address as we will be using this later on to access offers from GitHub. So I already have this dummy account here. I created this 2 weeks ago in a similar talk regarding GitHub. So we'll use this. I hope you already have one. So let's move on. For this workshop, we will be using GitHub Desktop as a recommendation by the PUP GDG on campus. GitHub Desktop has a very intuitive GUI for performing Git commands that can be used by both beginners and advanced users. However, we will still be touching the CLI with Git commands there. Firstly, upon fresh installation of Git, we must configure it with our details, which will be later used when we make commits. On your machines, please search git bash and type the following commands. After setting up GitHub Desktop, please set up your SSH keys with these commands. SSH keys are essentially a way so you don't have to type your username and password each time you push and clone to your repositories on GitHub. Shown are the commands for Windows and refer to the bottom left corner if you're on Mac or Linux. So, a Git repository is essentially where your project lives, like a folder. But unlike a regular folder, Git will track the contents across specific points while you develop. Commits are snapshots of the project at a specific point in time, representing a set of changes made to the file. For change 1, you might have added a home page for your website. For change 2, an about page. For change 3, a contact page, and so on. They represent specific waypoints you made over time during your project's lifespan. A git command follows the following format. Firstly, SHA-1 hashes are those 40 character revision identifiers. What is a SHA-1 hash? SHA-1 is basically an algorithm that takes some data as input and generates a unique 40 character string from it. In this context, it means that no other input data should ever produce the same hash. The same input data, however, should always produce exactly the same hash, making double as a security feature and an ID. The author is the person who originally wrote the code, and the committer is assumed to be the person who committed the code on behalf of the original author. In this case, it will be the same. Commit date is automatically generated on commit time, and commit message is what it says. See here. Can you classify which is the good and bad commit? Oh, actually, my apologies. Their name is showing. It's supposed to block that, but as you can see, the left commits are leaning towards being funny with intentionally wrong words and grammar. Seeing this in the industry is not just inappropriate, but could get you into trouble with other developers you work with. Even when you work alone, you will realize that it will be hard to track the progress of your project as it matures with commits like these. The right one, however, is quite more appropriate, seemingly following a certain standard and is straight to the point as necessary. There is no set universal rule on how to commit, but there are different guidelines you can follow, such as the following. The following are general guidelines on how to commit as per the EU Commission and conventional commits. Refer to the upper side. The header is mandatory and the scope of the header is optional. Any line of the commit message cannot be longer than 100 characters. The subject contains a succinct description of the change. You must use, or it's not shown here, but you must use imperative present tense, such things such as change, not changed with a D, or changes with an S. Don't capitalize first letter, do not dot at the end. This is also what we use in our organization, so we're able to maintain cohesiveness even with 21 developers. Now we get into the workshop part of this workshop. So for your utility and convenience, do access the workshop repository here as I will do right now. So what I plan to do here first is fork it. A fork is essentially my copy of the repository. It belonged to another account, but now I have a similar one, and here I can make my own changes without affecting theirs. And now that I have these, I remember that I mentioned we will be using GitHub Desktop. So this is it. So what I plan to do here is create, wait, upload. Yeah. So from a URL, you have your fork. Please click on code and get the HTTPS. Following along. Well, and please input it here. And let's clone it. I would choose here for my own purposes and click continue. So it's now on my local drive and local system machine. And let's open Visual Studio Code. So this is one of the repositories we will be working on throughout the workshop. Let's move on from the slides now that we have successfully cloned it in our local machine. So the following are Git commands, but these are, well, you can read this online, but what we will actually do is experiment on these on the CLI and GitHub Desktop. So going next. So this is the general flow of how to commit or basically collaborate with other developers or push your local changes to GitHub. So first we git add, or maybe I should do this here. So in this repository, I will create a new file on root. Maybe it's called index.c++. And now it's a new file. So it's not been added to Git yet. And what I can do is, well, since it's a new file, I can git add and git commit. So this is the message we were talking about earlier. But I do not want to generate my own commit message. Sorry for that. Um, but yeah, let's commit this. Let us use initial commit, I guess. And now it moved. So we've added it. It moved from the index.c++ moved from working directory to the staging area, and we have committed it. It moved from staging area to the local repository, and we can perform multiple git add and git commit at the same time without pushing it. But yeah, when we push it, GitHub or the remote repo is received, and our browser view here is updated. So if I do that, so if I git push origin master, or it's saying to me invalid username, um, let's push here, I guess. And that is live. Okay, that is live. So it went from my working directory now to GitHub's remote repo through three commands basically. And what we can do here is, well, maybe somebody pushed a change uh, on GitHub. So if somebody pushed the change on GitHub, my local machine does not know of it yet. But let's have GitHub pull that in after it's been detected. So index.js. So this is a JavaScript file, and maybe let's do something like this. So now it's there. Our previous one is index.c++. It's there already. Now maybe somebody pushed a new file called index.js. We do not have index.js here. So what we can do is, as you can see here, GitHub desktop already noticed that there's a new file on the remote that we do not have. So let's pull that in. And as you can see here, it's already reflected. And we now have index.js. And that's how you basically collaborate with each other at the most fundamental level with your schoolmates and workmates. Now we move on. So public versus private repository on GitHub, you can change these to whatever your use case may be. So how we can do that is on my fork of the Get Started with GitHub repository. So apparently, I cannot change the visibility since this is a fork. But when I do create a new repository, then I can change it, which I will show you later. So let's skip this for now. Now we move on to a very heavy topic, I guess, on GitHub. So let me just prepare something. Sorry for that. So branches allow you to work on different parts of a project without impacting the main branch, or as you can call it, a pointer to one specific commit. So now that we know commits, now it's a pointer to a commit. It's lightweight, and as Lion said, you should name your branches short and sweet and to the point. And this is actually another fun fact, I guess. So Git by default names your branch master, but GitHub names your branch main. So there's this disconnect, and well, you just it's personal preference. It has history, but I would recommend naming it master because it's the standard, it is the original. And if you do find yourself having push problems, it may mean that you're trying to push main to master. In which case, I should rename it to master. So here is branching. So as said earlier, maybe commit A is your homepage. You added a new homepage. On commit B, you added an about page. On commit C, you added a contact page. But where it branched off is this remain. Maybe you added here a git a how I say this a blog. So yes, a blog. And here, what can you add in a website? So here's a blog, and here is a YouTube channel, I guess. So let's go with that. Social media. Okay. So here you have blog. So blog progresses blog one. You added your new blog one. You added another blog, blog two in E and blog three in F. And you on G, they have the same base as the blog. So here is the contact page if you remember. Now on commit G, maybe you added here Facebook and then H, YouTube. And well, there's a disconnect which we'll mention about later, but you can actually do this. So branch rule sets. So let's talk about this later actually. So let's first mention merge versus rebase. Next is the sorry for that. Next is the different strategies of collaboration via merging and rebasing. But first, did you notice anything from the last slide? Wala. So, did you notice anything? Did you notice anything? So, here's the second slide, and here's the first slide. Did you notice? Well, the what changed is basically the direction of the arrows. So as you can see here, the arrows are pointing forwards, but here the arrows are pointing backwards. It's you can find these in Git visualizations, but they essentially mean the same thing. That might stump you, but it's just progression of your code over time, I guess. And in short, let's talk about merge and versus rebase. Merge takes all the changes. in one branch and merges them into another branch in one commit. While rebase, I want to rebase says that I want the point at which I branch to move to a new starting point. So it says here, this is our original branch, right? So merge instead of maybe this is your original blue and you append at the end your yellow, it becomes it's basically appended. So these three are appended at the very end of the blue. While this it's merged into a single commit called the merge commit. And in my experience, I prefer to use rebase. If I'm developing a program by myself or in a small team, since we can understand the timeline and project progression, it's better to use rebase. It results in a cleaner history, and since it's only a single branch as compared to merge. Merge is usually preferred for bigger projects with multiple people working together. When you want to explicitly preserve the complete history of both branches involved in the merge, better to have more documentation and a clear vision on what has happened in the history. So, merge conflict. So a merge conflict occurs when there are conflicting changes to the same lines of code in different branches. So on master, we have here hello world originally, and it evolved to hello cat, but the branch of hello world and changed it to hello dog, and now there's conflict. So cat and dog are in conflict with each other. They changed the same line world to different words. Let's actually recreate this. So currently I'm on the master branch and I'm on index.js. So hell, or I can change. I'll create another one called index.txt or a text file. So hello world. That's on my master branch. And here's how you actually branch off on using Git CLI. So first I commit that using git commit and just say here hello world. Okay, that's done. Now we proceed with modifying this, or wait, we proceed with creating another one, Alice Master, and change this to hello dog. And we commit hello dog. Now we go back to master. So master, as you can remember, is hello world. We change it to hello cat. Hello cat. And either we use merge or rebase. Let's use merge. So git checkout um call that Alice Master. Oh, call merge Alice Master. And so there's the conflict. We successfully recreated it, basically. So which one do you choose? Well, it's up to you, the developer. So let's resolve this in a merge editor. Can it, so on GitHub desktop, this is what you actually see. Continue the merge. Yeah, let's actually resolve it here. So it's still hello world. What what do you want? So I want to accept dog maybe. Or if I want to undo that, let's remove incoming and accept cat and complete the merge. And here is the merge commit because we use merge instead of rebase. And we can continue. And now that's resolved. The push. Sorry. And it's index index.txt is now hello cat. So there's merge conflict. That's how you resolve it basically. You have to manually choose it because you have to be knowledgeable in both code bases, both changes, because if you include one that is not on the other, well, your code now breaks. And if you push that to production, well, there goes your application. There goes your user's happiness, I guess. Moving on. Oh wait, that's for later. That's for the vouchers. Um, so we move on to GitHub pull request. So GitHub pull requests, these are separate from merge and rebase in case that you have more documentation, and let's actually look at the difference. So local merchant rebase, as you saw earlier, was it can be done in Git alone. However, pull slash merge request, it depends on basically it's in, it basically depends on which platform is implementing it. So it's either GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket. It's called different. On GitHub, it's called pull request. On GitLab, it's called merge request. And what's interesting to note here is that if you do a pull request or merge request, it doesn't really exist on Git itself. So what you see here, Git doesn't know that you perform a pull or merge request. Git only knows that on the fundamental level, a pull and merge request here is, as you can see, you can choose which strategy to do. Basically, pull and merge requests are for more documentation, depending on the platform. Yeah. So now this is git ignore. So suppose that you have your API key or a sensitive password in your repository, in your code, because you are required to maybe use it to access an application, access a model, access an API. So you have to git ignore it unless less you risk being unless you risk someone else taking your API key, and depending on the consequences, maybe your API key is bounded to your credit card, and when someone, it can literally be anyone if you publish it on GitHub, anyone can take it, and the next thing you know, your credit card is charged through the roof. And of course, we want to avoid that, and one of the uh, techniques we can do is to use git ignore. So this doesn't have a git ignore file yet. So let's create dot git ignore. Or wait, so actually uh, we already have existing workshop for this. So these are the patterns. Let's try it out. So I want to ignore here main.py. It's a Python file called main. And as you can see here, we have different files called main. So we have main on git ignore /lib. We have main on git ignore itself. So what happens if I do this and I hit save? Did anyone see? So yeah, that's better. So did you see that? It disappeared. Essentially, we are not allowing main to be pushed to the GitHub repository. Maybe this main file contains our password, and so we don't want anyone to see that. So we git ignored it, and as you can see here, it displayed. Next, if we do not want to ignore it, basically we want it to be pushed to the repository, we use a negation or an exclamation mark before the pattern. So what happens if I do ignore it and I unignore it? What will happen? It shows up. It negates the ignore. Now, as you can see here, this has a forward slash. It's different from not having a forward slash. Let's examine. So what if I do it without the forward slash? Boom. Did you see that? Even the main.py in the lib folder disappeared, as well as the gitignore file. So here, it went back, but if I do this, it doesn't disappear. So it's based on the structure of your file. This pattern looks for every, as you can see here, it will ignore all main.py and current subdirectories. So subdirectory including lib, so it's affected. Now what if we do this? This is called globbing, basically. And it matches everything, like everything that may it be alphanumeric. So what is considered alphanumeric? So here it's a pattern. So that's not that's in the alphabet. Oh, I actually triggered it already. So that oh yeah, sorry for the lag. But yeah, it basically looks for every Python file and ignores it. So you cannot push a Python file at all in the current or subdirectory. So even here, it's. But if I want to sustain main.py only, and so what I click, if I click here, 123 will disappear, but main.py will persist. Or wait. So actually, I was wrong. Um, so this looks for every Python file. Oh wait, oh so I forgot the denigration. So there it is. Sorry. I was correct. I uncommented the wrong thing. So every Python file is ignored aside from the main.py. And so you can experiment with this. So pattern, it matches pattern, pattern 1 and pattern A. It will be blocked. It disappeared. If I want to get ignore a directory or a folder, I can do this. So lib disappeared. Let's get it back. Where's lib back? And other stuff. So do experiment with these. It's quite fun seeing things disappear and appear on the side. It's quite snappy too. So let's move on. That's basically git ignore. It's if you have multiple how I say this, multiple folders or files you want to ignore. Maybe it's too big, it's unrelated to the project. As you can see here. And these are general know-hows of the git ignore, I guess. So when's the right time to ignore a git file as soon as possible? Or if you deem it necessary. Or if you are a JavaScript developer, you know to ignore the node modules since we don't need it at all. It's a gigabyte big, and you don't need it. You don't need it on GitHub because we can always generate it. So what else? So what if I already committed the file directory and want to ignore and remove it? So that's a very, honestly, very um, common. Yeah, it's a very common use case wherein you realize that you want to ignore it, but well, it's common in practice, but it's quite difficult to implement. So what I recommend is to experiment, dive deeper on this. This is what I used before, and it's basically instead of changing your history, it changes the file. Like if you have your password there, it will basically randomize it. So it persists your history, but your password is not there anymore. It consists of random numbers. And does order matter in get ignore? So no, it doesn't matter as shown here. So if I do this, main still persists. All right, yeah, main still persists. And if I do it here, main still persists. Main still persists. And so you can have more of these in one file, the gitignore file. So now we move on to quite a fun stuff we're actually be doing, actually. So Markdown language. So if you're a Discord girl or someone who just uses Discord, this is the formatting language. Or if you have used Google Docs, let's actually do a quick comparison. So we have here in the repository basically a markdown file. It's called markdown.md. The extension for markdown is .md at the end. So here is how it looks like. So if you ever done research, I guess, you have multiple headers, and some will be bold, some will be italic. You can do this with these. It's essentially Google Docs, but code. Let's replicate this side by side, I guess. I can do that. So header one, let's create header one. On Google Docs, you would do this and do this. You have to do that. It's but you know UI to help you out. So Markdown is actually ubiquitous in a way that it's actually a real formatting language. You can use this wherever you like, and yeah, it's applied. So imagine I do the same thing like item one, item two. It's basically the same thing as this, right? So this allows me to have lower level access. I have the code in my hands, not relying on a UI by Google Docs or Microsoft Office. So you can use this wherever you like. And actually, what we'll actually be doing is creating our own GitHub profile. So if you don't already know, GitHub, you can display or you can personalize your GitHub profile. So this is mine. So I created this 2 weeks ago, and yeah, it doesn't have anything. It has some repositories, but it doesn't say anything about me. I can tell my life story here, but yeah. So I have some recommendations of how you can customize your GitHub profile like this. So I'll type in LLC. So hi, I'm Alpha, and I can choose a variety of languages that I know. It depends on you, but for now, this will do, and I'll generate this. So as you can see here, this is what's generated, but it's actually a markdown file. Yeah, it's a markdown file. So here is your H1, and here's your text, and here are some images. You can also do images in markdown, by the way, as you can also do it on Google Docs. So with that, I can generate here, copy the code, and actually inspect it here. So I'll create another one, profile.md, and paste it. So it's the same. Like, yeah, it's the same. So what I can do is personalize my GitHub profile. I can tell my story to the world. And an example for this would be my main account on GitHub. So this is my account. So I use a lot of Markdown. These are all Markdown, by the way. So yeah, you can use Markdown for a lot of fun stuff. Personalize at your own preference. So let's customize this. So how we can do that is let's use GitHub Desktop. So let's create a new repository. Repository name will be development LLC. All right. Actually, let me double check. Oh yeah, that's okay. So comma development LLC. It's the exact same as my GitHub username. So if your GitHub username is Sigma Boy, you will also put it here Sigma Boy. Sorry for the lack of better terms, but yeah. So let's create that repository and open it on Visual Studio Code. So here it is. And what I want to do is create a file called readme.md, and I will copy the generated code here. I'll paste it here, and I'll commit it. So now let's use GitHub Desktop actually. So when I added this, GitHub Desktop automatically recognized it and the GUI. So let's say here add read and commit to me. Now it's committed. Let's publish this repository. It's the same name. Oh, wait. So comma development LLC. It's the same as my username. That is important. That's actually really important. Unless else this will not work. So my GitHub username is comma development. Oh wait, development. Actually, that's wrong. Let's just comma development. Yeah. So let's push this. Must be the same. And now that's pushed. Can you see it here? Apparently, oh, it's because I made it private, I guess. So here's how you can change the visibility of your repository. So this is private with the locked file, locked icon, as you can see here. And so only I can see it, but I want the world to see it. So I can go to the settings in the general, at the very bottom, it says here, change visibility and change visibility to some clicking. And I go back. I look at my profile, it's there. So as said, this is special repository. So my username is comma development. The repository name must also be comma development. And under the readme.md file, I will copy paste the generated markdown for me that I did earlier. So that's Markdown basically. You can use it for a variety of other stuff. It's basically Google Docs but lower level. It's not bounded to a particular UI of a service. Uh, and it's ubiquitous. You can use it anywhere. Oh, again with that. Yeah, what's next? So this is actually quite interesting. So has any one of you ever heard of GitHub Copilot? Well, it's basically a coding assistant. It was paid back in 2 months ago, but they made it free. So back then, you have to be a student, have to have a student email to access GitHub Copilot. But now you can actually use it for free. You just install the extension on VS Code, well, which we will actually do right now. So on your extensions tab, Control Shift X. You don't know the shortcut for that. Uh, you search GitHub Copilot. I already have it installed. So it's here. So if you install that, you can actually try a variety of things. One of which is um, AI commit generator. So maybe you're working on a project and you don't want to go back. You don't want to review each one of those changes to decide what is the perfect commit message for all of these changes? Well, there's AI for that already. So let's see here. If I make a file called index.cpp, and since I already have GitHub Copilot installed, so let's actually make a sample file. Let's make a binary search, or I hope it does. Yeah, it does. It's taking quite a long time. Anyway, let's help it out. Oh yeah. Oh, okay. There it is. So here's our binary search. Now, suppose I want the AI to generate a message. So what I can do first is git add, and now it's been seen by Git. Let's click on this. To get here, click on Control Shift G and G again, and click that. So it automatically generated for me a commit message. Of course, it's so simple. It's just a single file, but you can really see how this can really help you with your commit quality, especially if you're working on multiple teams. So with that, we can commit this and push. Well, I pushed that on my README file, but it doesn't matter. So there it is, index.cpp. Though it doesn't make sense, but yeah. So terminal commands, let's actually review it. I'm on Linux. You might be on Windows. I think you can also do this if you toggle PowerShell. If you type PowerShell and use it as your terminal, that's actually, I mean, I don't have to because I'm on Linux already. But let's practice. Let's practice here. I'll create a new terminal. So we have a bunch of files and folders here. So maybe I want to change directory. So I'm currently at the root, the project, and I want to go to Markdown. So here, Markdown. So I'm already here. If I want to go back, I can do cd dash then double dots, which will take me back. So maybe I want to remove index.cpp, but I don't want to click on it and hit the delete button, but I actually want to remove it with the terminal command. So rm and index.cpp, and it's gone. However, is it actually gone? If you can see here, we have tracked it already. And did you remember earlier that when you delete a file, it says permanently delete, but with Git, it's not actually permanently delete. And I can summon it back. So welcome back, index.c++. Cool, right? Yeah, and we can also do that for folders, I guess. So for Markdown, let's remove Markdown. But since it's a directory, let's remove this with an rm with an dash r option, which basically recurses instead of a file. It removes the entire directory. And there goes the Markdown directory. And let's summon it back using this. And welcome back. Although it's only a single file, let's summon back the others. And there they are again. And this. So this of course a workshop. So please do this, I guess, if you want to. So prompt the AI in the terminal. So there are installing GitHub Copilot actually not just gives you the AI to run the AI in the editor, but also in the terminal and other places. So what we saw that we can run the AI on the side, which can generate a commit message for us. We can also run it on the terminal. So I hit here on the terminal, Control I, and maybe what I said here, prompt AI to create. Okay, let's copy paste that. Create and cd into AI codes. So this is AI in the terminal. You can get this by installing, as said, GitHub Copilot, and that's run that, and it generated, as said, AI codes. So next is create a file called CPP and prompt inline. Inline being on the editor. So I'll create quick sort. That's it. And yeah, that's prompt. File stream and just prompt it quick sort. Hopefully it does it. And there goes quick sort. Right. So I basically tab each one of those. So it's quite a per function based. What we can actually do, so it's this is per function inline, right? So on chat, there's another one. So let's do this. Let's create merge.py. So it's now a Python file. Now this is an AI on the side. I have a binding for this, but I can search for this. I guess I forgot what's called. But let's prompt on chat. Create merge sort. So those are four ways to use AI. GitHub Copilot, one side, one to generate your commits, one on the terminal, and one on your main editor. And it's all for free. And we can apply this here. And we can run it. Sort. Wait, what? Maybe later. Let's run that later. And try out the GitHub commit AI generator. So we generated merge sort.py, quicksort.cpp, and so let's try out again the AI commit generator. So set add merge sort implementation and quick sort implementation, and we can commit that. And here push origin. So it's now pushed to GitHub. It's supposed to be here. Yeah, it's here. AI codes. So take your time, install this, practice it later. It's quite fun. It's very helpful. But in the end of the day, you need to understand how the code works. That's the question. Oh, there it goes again. So where are we now? So this is actually a fun one. So we will deploy a Git. We will basically deploy our own web page, and I'll guide you all throughout. So as you can see here, fork this. Let's go here. So let's fork this repository as said in the instructions. I'm fine with this. Let's create the fork. And this is my fork of that. And I'll go to code again and select copy the HTTPS. I'll create I'll create another repository. All right, clone, clone, paste, and clone for my own purposes. And let's get rid of that and launch Visual Studio Code on that project. So if you open this up, something will pop up here most likely because mine is already a modified Visual Studio Code. I already have these plugins or extensions installed. So something will pop up here most likely and you need to install that. So those are basically to run to see what we will uh, how the website will look like. So if I go to the uh, index.html, so if for those of you who may know HTML or CSS, so I will run here live preview, and this is actually what the website looks like. Of course, we will modify this, but this is just the template. So as you can already tell, I'm a huge Genshin fan. So this is the website. We must modify this, of course. I must put my name here, change the description, add my socials. But it's quite a nice template, if I do say so myself. But before that, so here's my fork. Going back to GitHub, sample PHP deployment, I'll go to settings and click on pages. So GitHub Pages is actually a free service from GitHub in which you can host your static HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files. Those files can be for your projects, such as the website we are doing right now. So deploy from a branch. So in branch, I'll select master and just hit save. And in a while, what is seen here, this is localhost, but soon this will be hosted, like you can view this based on my URL. And as you can already tell, I can modify this. And if I modify this, that website will be updated with my information and therefore making it mine, personalized, customized, and I can share it with the world basically. It's quite fun. Like you don't need to host your own server, you just change the code, you just push it to GitHub, and they automatically update it for you. But let's wait for that actually. So it's now deployed. So here, I mean, you can share this with anyone. This is a real URL of this website that we saw here earlier. And in a few clicks of a button, it's yes now. Now let's actually modify this. So I'm not Mabuega, that's my favorite hero. So I'm Alpha. Uh, campus expert. And maybe just let GitHub Copilot generate some description for me. Hopefully it will be nice. Or not. You Copilot. And let's just say hello world. And now that I changed this to my information, of course, my ID file. So here, it has a photo, JPG and PNG, but I can upload here a photo of mine and change the source here. And yeah, it will be my face. But for now, I change it to my name. I change the description. So let's push it. Let's let's use GitHub Copilot AI again to generate the commit message. And thank you. I shall use this here and I shall push it. And it's now on GitHub. This will update in a while, but first, let's see on the Actions tab. So it's currently building. That, that succeeded, and now it's deploying. 1, 0. And I think it's done. Yeah, it's done. So if I go back, so it's not Mavuika anymore. It's not the Pyro Archon anymore, but it's me, Alpha. GitHub Campus Expert. But yeah, it's basically you change this HTML file, or you can create your own website using React or HTML or Next.js even, and you have GitHub pages to use GitHub pages to upload your static files. And yeah, it's a free hosting platform. It's very intuitive, and yeah, it's free. What's next in our slides? Hopefully, you were able to deploy, or at least later deploy your own website. So this is actually some technical stuff that the advanced users will probably enjoy. So let me just prepare my script. So this is integration manager and notes. So now we move on to more advanced topics in terms of collaboration. The following is from the official Git documentation. Because Git allows you to have multiple remote repositories, it's possible to have a workflow where each developer has write access to their own public repository and read access to everyone else's repository. The flow is as follows. The project maintainer or the integration manager pushes to their public repository or the blessed repository. The contributor clones that project and makes changes. The contributor pushes to their own public copy or the developer copy, and the contributor sends the maintainer an email asking them to pull changes from them. The maintainer adds the contributor's repository as a remote and merges locally. And then lastly, the maintainer pushes the merge changes to the main repository, in which case it repeats all over again. The developer must pull from the blessed repository, but since it is the source of truth, they must be up to date on the latest changes. And yeah, another one being the dictator and lieutenant workflow. So here, the dictator and lieutenant workflow is generally used by huge projects with hundreds of developers collaborating in the platform. And one famous example is actually the Linux kernel. The flow is as follows. The regular developers or developer public work on their topic branch and rebase their work on top of the master branch. The master branch is that of the reference repository or the blessed repository to which the dictator wishes to. The tenants merge the developer's topic branches into their master branches. The dictator merges the tenant's master branches into the dictator's master branches. Finally, the dictator pushes that branch to the reference repository so the other developers can rebase on it. So it's quite complicated, and I did stumble in my words like, wow, what am I saying? But yeah, basically the flow is as follows: the developer public pulls on the blessed repository. Developer public submits their code to lieutenant. Lieutenant submits their code to dictator, and dictator pushes to the repository. So it's like this. It goes like um, to the left and to the right and down. So that's basically how it goes. So this is actually what we use in our organization. I could have explained it much better, but yeah, it's what the Linux kernel uses for big projects. And yeah, this is for more advanced use case from branching, I guess. And so this is another advanced use cases. This is branching strategies. So we have four of these, and these are actually what is used in the industry. So this is the most traditional one, most complicated one too. It's called the get flow strategy. It has 5 branches, namely the master, hotfix, release, develop, and feature. So master is your master branch. But here you push your homepage, and but your homepage has a bug, and so you must branch off of your master branch, go into the hotfix, and then fix it there and merge it back to master. And the develop branch is actually where the feature development takes place. So here is maybe the homepage one, homepage two, homepage three. Or wait, it's the feature branch. So feature development takes place in the feature branch, and it gets merged to the develop branch. So there's this buffer between master and feature called develop. So you don't actually push your newly developed code for a homepage directly onto the master. It must go to develop first, And once it goes through develop, it cannot go through master until it has gone through a release first. So a release can be, this like version 1.1.1, version 2.24.3, so something like that. So yeah, it must go through that. And it's, as you can tell, it's quite a lengthy process. Even I got lost, even though we were implementing this for a year already. So this is old technology. This is considered outdated. And the next one is actually GitLab Flow, which is much more modern, I guess. And yeah, so it has fewer branches. So I don't have personal or working experience with this, but as you can see, there's still the master branch. However, master is not where production or your application is hosted on. It's actually the production branch. And before that, you have pre-production where testing takes place, and feature development takes place in the feature branch, homepage, about page, merge to the master. So what master branch is basically the buffer between production and feature branch again, instead of develop. So with trunk-based development, this I haven't experienced this yet, but it's quite simple too. So there's a never-ending master branch and the release branch. So you develop on the master branch, and over time you take one which is considered stable and put it on the release branch, and there, this is actually where the end users interact with the application. Like this is the version that the end users are uh, are shown. So there's no feature branch unlike the two others. It's quite simple, and yeah, not this is the this is what we actually are working on right now. It's called GitHub Flow. So this is the master branch. There is the feature branch. It's much like the trunk based development, but instead of release branch, we have feature branches. So in feature branches, this is a homepage one, homepage two, homepage three, and when it becomes complete or stable, we merge it to the master branch. And master branch is where production lies. Like this is the code that your end users see. So there is no production branch. It's literally the master branch. And yeah, if there's no releases, but if in my understanding, like any one of these branches can be releases. Like any one of these, like even in this, if it's outdated, this can be the stable one. It's but yeah, if future commits become stable, then can you only make that into production. But yeah, it's this the one we've been working with. Sorry if I'm stuttering, but yeah, we moved from Git Flow to GitHub Flow. Git Flow was really um, hard. Well, it's hard for me, and it's hard for other developers because they have to adopt the same methodology in committing, in basically uh, collaborating using these branching strategy, right? So with this GitHub Flow, this is what I consider the simplest one, aside from the trunk-based development. And if you do some research online, this is actually what they recommend nowadays. So for you developers, advanced developers out there, please, for the love of God, don't use Git Flow, don't use GitLab Flow, but do use either trunk-based development and GitHub Flow, especially if you are a very small team. You don't need to go through that madness like we did. So this is actually the pros and cons of each branching strategy. So as said, we were a small team, but we used a branching strategy for large teams, and therefore it's very complex. And well, while each one of them has their own pros and cons, as you can see here, well, I consider, well, not just because I'm a GitHub expert, but yeah, it's based on my 1 year of experience working with GitHub Flow. that I realized that we've made it to greener pastures versus Git flow. So that's just a personal story. So coming into the end, here are my recommendations. So we earlier have set up your SSH key, right? And well, that's enough. But imagine I can impersonate you. I can impersonate your name, maybe your real address, and there's nothing you can do. Well, there's something you can do, and it's called setting up your GDG for anyone to verify your identity. And yeah, I can basically impersonate Linus Torvalds with the email of reallinustrustmebro.com. Of course, that's too obvious, but imagine me being Linus Torvalds. You saw my commit, it's from Linus. It's wow, it's Linus, right? But little do you know, it's a fake. I'm impersonating one, and one of the ways to combat that is setting up a GPG key. I will not be tackling this, but it's quite easy. So takes 5 minutes. Next is my one of my best recommendation I can give you is please take the Git Kraken Foundation's certification. It's free. It's oh, my name is shown there, but I can 100% guarantee you that you will level up your development game. So you will learn the stuff that we talked about, like branching strategies, rebasing, merging, to a more fundamental, more to an easier degree because they imagine consuming content that's 2 minutes long or 1 minute long. That's called nano learning. And aside from this kind of workshop style that lasts 2 hours, well, that's actually more bite sized and you can consume it wherever you want. And I highly recommend that. While it leads to it leads to a final exam from Git Kraken where you can get this very nice certification all for free. Highly recommended. No joke. So GitHub models, I think we have time. Oh yeah, we have some time. So this being the bonus, but this is actually quite fun. This is actually new that very few people know about this. So if I click here, github.com/marketplace/models, did you know? Of course, we all know AI, right? Like ChatGPT, Gemini. But did you know that like GitHub actually has these models, and you can access it for free. Like I can access GPT-4o for free, and let's actually do a comparison with DeepSeek R1. So it says here, let's go here and do it. Okay. So this is the prompt. Let's ask how many R's are in the strawberry comparing GPT-4o and R1 on GitHub models. Not not OpenAI, not DeepSeek itself, but GitHub models. Let's see. Okay. 4o has answered DeepSeek with its deep reasoning. Hopefully, we do not run out of tokens. Uh, so that's DeepSeek for you. Even in the DeepSeek application itself, it's taking a long time even for such simple tasks, which, yeah, even 4.0 was able to. Right? So at least it got the answer correct. So let's ask both of them another question. So instead of DeepSeek, which takes a long time, let's use Llama 3.3 for free too. So let's prompt it. PUP, what is GDG on campus? PUP, and why are they awesome? Again, you can access these models for free. You can experiment on these, and as we'll try later, since we have time, let's actually try creating our code implementation of this. So I'll actually move. So sorry for this. This is a personal issue I have with Firefox. It's not. So let me just do that. do the same thing on Google Chrome, and I'll click use use this model, and then get developer key. Oh, wait, no, run code space, run code space. So resume this code space. Code space is basically a free computer, like it's a free computer given to you by GitHub, and it has CPU, it has storage. Um, Actually, it's shown in the slides. Sorry. Oh yeah, it's here. So it's what I call a free computer. It has these specifications. You can choose one. Of course, we want the most powerful one, although it's not that powerful. Although it's free. And what's a general use case for this? Well, maybe my computer is disintegrating, like it's exploding because I do not have any more RAM, so many processors running. I have so many applications on, and well, I want to code, but I can. So I can use GitHub code space for this. And as said, it's a free computer and it looks something like this. Right? So it's essentially a VS Code on the web. And you can use the commands we learned earlier. So cd ls, cd into code space. Then you can try this. So here, I already modified this actually. I was working on this a while back. What is PUP GDSC? And yeah, this is not just the UI. Like this is actual code in JavaScript, and I can modify these. And GPT-4o responded on my GitHub code space that PUP GDSC, or now GDG on campus, refers to the organization that are awesome, does some very cool Google stuff. And yeah, you can modify this. You can take inputs from the user and return outputs. You can use this as an API, like maybe a chatbot, maybe an agentic workflow, which is a more advanced form of a chatbot LLM. But yeah, it is literally free. This is like having an open AI API key. I'm sure you heard of something similar like Gemini, Google AI Studio, which you can get a free API key to. But this, you can have GPT-4o, Mistral, DeepSeek. Unfortunately, there are no Gemini models. But yeah, you can experiment on these. Use it in your own applications. And so what else? Where is PUP? Okay, and let's see. Polytrons. Okay, Manila. But yeah, cool stuff. Cool free stuff. Moving on. So this is another one, I guess. So I discovered this early, 2 days ago, that well, I was experimenting on GitHub models, but um, I saw that DeepSeek is free on Azure. So I will not show the tutorial here. I will not demo it, but I have made a reproducible documentation on how to get a free DeepSeek R1 deployment up and running, and so you can receive your own API key as and I said here it runs at $0, subject to rate limits and price changes at any time. But if you're interested, if you're up to the challenge, it's quite easy too. So you can use it for different applications. DeepSeek, you're not bounded to the DeepSeek application UI, but you actually have the the model itself, or at least the API for it. And I believe that the ever so active PUP students uh, are not distant, or are not aware, not aware of this developer pack. So this is a free developer pack by GitHub, in which you can avail offers and services such as free IDEs, free certifications, free hosting, free domain names, and much more. and it will actually require you to uh, sign in using your school email. So yeah, please check this out as much as possible right now, as long as because this will only last as long as you're a student. Maybe you're in your third year, you only just saw this now, right? And you're saying to yourself, "Wow, I've been missing out on a lot of free stuff." Maybe, but there's still time. So yeah, free stuff. Go on. And GitHub Foundation certification. So if you don't already know, as part of this student developer pack is actually a free certification exam attempt from the official GitHub. This was publicized around 2023 and was made free for the students, I believe, 4 months ago. So it's been already a while, but still, yeah, it's free for students. There are 5 exams as shown earlier, and I'm 5 times GitHub certified on all of them. And yeah, you cannot proceed to take the advanced stuff if you don't pass the GitHub foundations. Unfortunately, it's free. And with what I'm going to show you later is, oh, so before that, this is what you will receive upon passing the exam. So a very nice certificate and a badge. And of course, bragging rights, which you can show to the world. Now it's actually time for you to show this, the moment everyone has been waiting for. So remember, there are 5 exams. The first one is free. You can take the advanced 4 exams, the GitHub Actions, administration, advanced security, and Copilot, whichever one you please. You can send this out to them, follow the instructions, and good luck. So I will leave this on for another 10 seconds or so for you to scan it, or you have slide access. So, or I did not put it in the slide, but because I consider this special. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and yeah. Moving on, another discount, another bonus for this would be what I discovered. I've been discovering a lot of stuff recently, and one of them being discounts like Microsoft. Well, back a slide back is GitHub. Now we're talking about Microsoft. Well, Microsoft. Imagine you want to take the Microsoft AI fundamentals. It costs 3,000 pesos. But with this technique, you have 5 steps here. It goes from $3,000 to only $1,000. Oh, 1,000 pesos. Sorry, $1,000. But yeah, so you can do that for Azure AI fundamentals, Azure fundamentals, Azure data fundamentals. So imagine what you're saving. And not only that, but if you plan to take the advanced exams, you're uh, guaranteed a 35% off. So it goes from 5,000 to maybe 35,000. Oh, no. It goes from 5,000 to 3,500. That's all wrong. So those are the two bonus. And lastly, I guess, is what I discovered just earlier today, like around 6 a.m. And Git apparently Google Cloud has their certifications at 50% off until April. And so of course PUP GDG on campus, it's in the name, Google, right? So you do not just want GitHub or just Microsoft, you also want Google stuff. And I'm happy to share with you that just this earlier this morning, we have 50% off all certifications. Please take advantage of this. Go on. Good luck. And I think that's all, I guess. Hopefully you found this. Oh yeah, last one, I guess. So I'm a GitHub Campus expert, the five, one of the now 5. So though I'm still a third year student, I still have a year to go. But yeah, basically you can apply to these programs. It's extremely competitive. However, if you made it through, you will have direct access to GitHub themselves. You can organize competitions or hack competitions, hackathons, competitive programming. events, and you will have the backing of GitHub. They will give you vouchers, they will give you merch, they will give you speakers, and much more. I myself am just a trainee. I'm not a campus expert yet, so there's a trainee after it. Although the deadline for that would be this February, and that title of trainee will be off soon. But yeah, do apply. It opens on July 2025. Hopefully, we will have another GitHub Campus expert on PUP, so we can collaborate. So I was actually just working on this earlier. Unfortunately, as you may have already noticed, the presentation was a bit off. My explanation were not the best, and the slides were not that complete. However, I hope you have learned some. Yeah. What we have done is basically deployed our own website. We have learned about the foundations of Git and GitHub. We have touched on GitHub models, which we can access for free. We have discounts or certification vouchers from GitHub, Microsoft, and Google. And there's this recording which you can watch anytime if you are troubled. And so we move on to the Q&A session. I turn it over to the organizers. Please.
Yan, grabe. Thank you so much, Mr. Coma, for that in-depth and enlightening session. Maski ako, marami-rami akong natutunan ng mga topics and concepts na hindi ko pa na-encounter before, as in, like, yung mga things to do when it comes to local merge, slash rebase, pull requests, yung Git ignore kanina, all about Markdown language, si GitHub Copilot and GitHub Codespaces, and as well as the different GitHub certificates that we can get, and so on and so forth. And sure ako na everyone here present in our workshop as well as gain valuable knowledge about Git and GitHub. Now, it's our participants' turn naman. If you have anything you'd like to ask our speaker, this is the perfect time for you to do so. Please feel free to drop your questions in the chat box and we'll address them one by one. Don't hesitate kasi this is your only opportunity para maklarify yung mga concepts and mag-dive deeper sa mga topics na na-discuss kanina ni Mr. Coma. Ayan. Sige, keep your questions coming lang and iisa-isahin natin yan. Ayan. Thank you.
Oh, and before I forget, I'll actually share this slide in here, the chat box. So do get those vouchers.
Ayan, mukhang wala pang questions as of the moment. So, I think nag-iisip pa po sila ng kanilang mga itatanong. Don't be shy, guys. This is your opportunity to ask anything that's on your mind, whether you're curious about best practices or real-world applications in GitHub. Feel free to drop a questions in the chat box. Yan. Go lang, guys. Aantayin namin kayo. Ayan, looks like we have our first question already na po, Mr. Coma. So, according To J. Clifferson P. Arevalo, what is it like being an AI engineer intern po?
Um, Very cool question. So I'm currently a third year, currently doing our thesis. We're supposed to have our internship supposed to be next year on our fourth year. So I'm quite advanced, and I'm currently dying right now, maintaining balance between thesis and work as an AI engineer intern, especially at a US-based startup. So startup, it's very hectic because work never ends. They say that you have you have unlimited PTO. Okay, not that, but once you finish your work, basically, there's more work to take in. So it's kind of no, it's project based and it's hectic because work never gets done. I always remember that people say that work never gets done when you're in the industry, and now I see it. But it's fun too because 6 months ago, I would have never thought of establishing a career in AI. I am a computer science software engineering student. And yeah, ever since that fateful boot camp that I got into, and because I got into that boot camp, I got hired by US startup. And yeah, pain, suffering, fun, yay. Thank you very much for that question.
Thank you so much po, Mr. Goma. May hahabol pa po bang mga questions? Go lang, guys. Sasagutin yan lahat ni Mr. Goma. Ayan po. We have our second question na po from Janmark M. Ronquillo. Any learning tips po, especially for such a great learning curve?
Great question. So what I presented earlier, well, the title is misleading that it's a foundational temp workshop. But what I actually did was first get into the basics and then move into the advanced. And that's not foundational, that's like advanced, right? And I understand that this workshop might be too much for you. I might not have explained it in the best way possible. That I'm sorry. But in terms of learning tips, for a steep learning curve, well, just I think you have to be active on the latest news and happenings. Be on LinkedIn. Be subscribed to YouTube channels that are related to what you want to become. And if you do that day by day, 1 week, 1 month, 2 months, and essentially you're going to become what you do.
Thank you po. And another question pa po from J. Clifferson P. Arevalo again. Last na po, sorry, what would you say are the steps we should take to be a successful programmer? Likewise, what are some certificates we should take?
So those are two parts. The first part being, what are the steps we should take to be a successful programmer? Well, a programmer. What's the meaning of a programmer? It's higher than a coder. So coder, programmer, software developer, software engineer. But essentially, um, depending on your expertise, prior, you may specialize in Python, JavaScript, and C++. JavaScripting, the largest one of all, because you can get into web development. Well, it depends on what you actually want to do to be what's your end goal? Do you want to become an AI engineer? Because if you wanted to become an AI engineer, you have to learn Python instead of JavaScript. If you want to become a web developer, you have to learn JavaScript instead of maybe Python. If you want to be a backend engineer, maybe you'll have to learn C++ instead of the other two. So it really depends. And yeah, next question would be, what are some certificates we should take? Well, yes, that really depends on what you actually want to do. There are some web development certificates that might not be useful because I'm in the AI field. You know? Um, but yeah, certificate. So what I realize, what I will share to you is Git is ubiquitous, right? If you're in software engineering, if you're in AI, if you're in data science, Git is going nowhere. So what I actually shared to you earlier, the Git Kraken certification, it's free. It's so wonderful. You will learn a lot from it. And yeah, just take it, go for it. Takes 1 week, I guess.
Thank you po. And there's a last question here from Jed Asian P. Aguilar. Will we be able to access the recording po ba pagkatapos nitong workshop? Yes, after the session, ma-access niyo pa po the recording again kapag nag-end na po yung program natin. And yeah, I think there are no more questions na. Looks like that would be it for the Q&A session. Wala na po bang habol? I guess okay na. So hopefully naliwanagan naman po tayong lahat and nasagot naman ng ating speaker ang lahat ng questions niyo. And wow, what an incredible session that was. Feeling ko lahat tayo is may much better understanding na ng Git and GitHub. And with that, thank you everyone for those insightful questions. And of course, a massive thank you to Mr. Koma for taking the time to share their expertise with us today. Now, to formally express our gratitude, I'd like to call on Mr. Gladwin Ferds Del Rosario to give our appreciation message to our speaker for today. Let's all give him a virtual round of applause.
Ayun, hello guys. So ayun, thank you for that, Alexi. First off, I want to thank our speaker, ayan, si Alpha Romer Coma from FEU Tech. On behalf of our entire team, I want to sincerely thank you for taking the time to share your invaluable insights with us today. Your expertise has not only broadened our perspectives, but also inspired us to push the boundaries of what we can achieve. And your talk today has given us fresh ideas, a deeper understanding, and most importantly, the motivation to continue growing and innovating. It's always a privilege to learn from someone who has a wealth of knowledge and experience. So, ayan. So, let's spam that clapping emoji here sa teams, guys, and let's give a round of visual applause to our speakers. Ayon. Yay, thanks, guys. And to our attendees, as we wrap up today's event, I want to take a moment to express my sincere gratitude to each and every one of you for being here. Your presence and engagement means a lot to us, and it really shows your dedication to learning, growing, and being part of this incredible community. I hope from our session today, kaya nyo na mag-commit sa mga code nyo, hindi lang nga sa mga minamahal nyo. But kidding aside, I hope today's session has been insightful and valuable for you. More importantly, I hope it has sparked inspiration and new opportunities for collaboration. And let's continue to learn from one another and build a stronger, more innovative community together. Once again, thank you all for coming today, and thank you to our speaker again. And we look forward to seeing you all at our future events at GDG.
Thank you, Mr. Del Rosario. Bago tayo magtapos pala, let me give a few quick reminders na hindi ninyo dapat palagpasin. First things first, please take a moment to answer our feedback form since this will count as your attendance for today's session and for you to get your e-certificates na rin. The link will be dropped na lang in the chat box. Wait na lang natin siguro. And your thoughts, insights, and suggestions are incredibly valuable to us kasi they play a huge role in shaping even better events for our community. Ayan na, send na pala yung feedback form natin in our chat. Ayan. So don't hesitate to share your thoughts, whether it's about what you loved, what could be improved, or anything you'd like to see in future sessions. All right, so here comes the long-awaited part of our program, ang ating photo op. Yan. With that, I encourage everyone po to please open their cameras para naman maging unforgettable yung pag-attend nyo here sa workshop natin for today. And as always, we'll have two phases of our photo op. First is for the classic normal pose, and the second one is yung para naman sa GDG symbol natin. So, ayan, open cam na tayo guys. And wait na lang natin if okay na. Ayan, open cam na po tayo, guys. Huwag na po kayong mahiya. Samahan niyo na po kami. Hintayin lang natin yung iba pa, baka may inaayos pa sila. Ayan. Ayun, baka may hahabol pa po. Additionally pala, if meron pala kayo ng background natin for GDG, you may use that. Pero kung wala, okay lang din naman. I guess, okay na tayo. Wala nang kahabol po ba? Ayan. So, I think we can proceed naman. So, classic normal pose muna tayo. So, I'll do the counting. So, 1, 2, 3. Ayan. Let's take another one na classic normal pose ulit. So, 1, 2, 3. Ayan. Next naman is yung sa GDG pose natin. Yung eto. Yan. Yan. Countings ulit. 1, 2, 3. Yan. Isa pa guys. So, another GDG pose ulit. So, 1, 2, 3. Ayan. I think okay na to. Thank you guys for opening your cameras. And now, pat yourselves in the back because that concludes our program for Get Started with GitHub Foundational Dev Workshop. Yes po, Mr. May nagtaas ng kamay ata. Hindi ko nakita. Ayan. Anyway, ayun. Thank you to each and every one of you for participating, engaging, and making this session a success. And we hope you all had a fantastic time learning and gaining new skills that will help you in your future projects. Remember, Git and GitHub are powerful tools that can make development and collaboration much smoother. After all, si Git parang relationship lang yan. Kasi it's all about committing. Gets nyo kasi git tas committing. Or nila. Keep practicing, keep exploring, and don't be afraid to contribute to open source project. Who knows, baka nga naman yung next big opportunity na nag-aantay sa inyo is eto na pala yun. And dito naman gagaling. Ayan. Once again, I am Lex Villaverde, wishing you a fantastic day or ayan, dahil magabi na rin naman, evening ahead. We look forward to seeing you again in our future workshops dito sa GDG. And stay curious, keep learning, and happy coding. Ayan. Bye guys, at maraming salamat ulit sa pag-attend.
Thank you po.
Thank you,
Thank you
guys.
rin.
Kami natutunan.
Thank you guys.